A group of strangers awaken to find themselves held captive in an alien spacecraft. Together, they must fight to survive and find their way home. In 1959, there was a place called Raven Rock Mountain Complex, a top-secret research facility run by the U.S. War Department. A mysterious young girl named Sarah was sitting inside an alien technology that the War Department recovered during the Roswell UFO incident. Sarah was to test the alien technology and gather more information about the aliens. The girl related to the researchers what she experienced with the alien technology and is clearly scared by the visions of people screaming. However, the experiences were too much for Sarah's human body, and she started to convulse. Researcher John Brighton immediately shut down the alien technology before it could kill Sarah. John rushed Sarah to the clinic and pumped her chest to bring her back. Sarah gasped and warned John that something was coming. The scene then switched to an alien spacecraft orbiting Earth. Inside the UFO was a diverse group of humans held captive, separately tied and restrained by black tentacles, which have an auto-response mechanism, so they tighten up further as they resist. John was also captured, and he was shocked when he recognized Sarah. He tried to speak to Sarah, but the latter was unresponsive, seemingly lacking awareness. Sarah could see memories that belonged to the other captives, like Zach Chase, who was frightened when Sarah suddenly spoke the exact words she heard in Zach's memory. Another female captive, Rhonda Woods, awakened and panicked upon seeing where she was. Her emotional response triggered the black tentacles, and they tightened further. Zach was trying to calm the girl down, but John told him to just let it happen as they watched Rhonda get flooded with emotions before falling unconscious again. John explained that it was better for Rhonda to be unconscious than to die because her emotional responses are triggering the black tentacles. In the Raven Rock Mountain Complex, General Alistair Borland learned that they had lost Sarah's transmission and received a second one, letting them know that John had also disappeared. A colleague of John told General Alistair about a transponder that connects John and Sarah to each other. Sarah's transponder generates a stabilized density matrix, which then sends a pulse over to John's transponder so it could generate the same frequency. They believe that this is the reason why, when Sarah was abducted by the aliens, John was taken too right after. Male captive Perry Bulmer awakened and was relatively calmer than Rhonda was. John explained to him what happens if he resists his restraints. Perry told them how he felt sick before he found himself on the ship. It was the same for John, and he figured out that sickness must have been a side effect of transport. Perry easily figured out that it must have been aliens that captured them, as no man on Earth can build something like the place they are being held in. He also figured out that John was working for the government, and John explained what he knew about the aliens. John and the other researchers believed that the aliens had been abducting humans for a long time now. They had been trying to understand what they were dealing with so they could find a way to stop it, but to no avail. Rhonda awakened in a panic once again, but eventually calmed down with the help of Perry, who distracted Rhonda by talking about their lives and happy memories. Once Rhonda was calm, Perry reassured her that they would get back home safe and sound. John then stated that the first thing they need to do is figure out what the common denominator is, and sickness seemed to be the answer to that. Just like John and Perry, Rhonda also felt nauseous after dropping her daughter, Hannah, off to school, and the next thing she knew, she was tied to an alien spacecraft. Another captive, Alex Gauthier, awakened and started resisting her restraints, calling for a guy named Jacques and screaming in a different language. Sarah was still silent as she watched a memory of Alex, while Rhonda, who understood the language Alex was speaking, calmed the latter down. Alex eventually stopped struggling after learning about the auto-responsive tentacles. Seeing Zach, Alex recognized him as a member of a famous rock band when she was still little, confusing Zach, who believed that he was still a rock band member before he disappeared. Alex then told them the news of Zach Chase being murdered by his fiancée, Amber, who then made up a story of how Zach disappeared in a big flash of light, but no one believed her. Amber was put in prison for life, and Zach's body was never found. This happened in 2018, and it had been 15 years for Alex since then. This is when everyone realized that they were abducted in different years, ranging from the 20th to the 21st century. Zach was abducted in 2001, Rhonda in 1977, and John was abducted in 1969. This caused more confusion in the group. They figured out that they must have been asleep for years, so they did not know how long they'd been on the alien ship. They didn't know what the current year was either. Things got a lot worse when a larger tentacle was sent down to gather more energy from the captives, as they aren't producing energy anymore due to them being calm. The tentacle enveloped Rhonda's head and taunted her with an imagination of herself being buried alive, inducing an emotional response from her and producing a large amount of energy. This also created a direct telepathic link between Rhonda and Sarah, who brought Rhonda to a safe place, a memory of her home with her family. However, this happy memory turned into just another nightmare when the alien spoke to them through Rhonda's grandmother. Aware that Sarah doesn't belong in Rhonda's memory, the alien forced her out. Rhonda was unable to fight against the mental and emotional torture she was subjected to and, in the end, died as the tentacles seeped all of her energy and life out. Witnessing Rhonda's death sent an immense fear into Alex, who began panicking again, her angry pleas to be set free blending in with Sarah's screams. John was able to calm Alex down, and he informed them of what he figured out, which is that the aliens were harnessing their energy using their emotional responses, mostly fear. John shared with everyone what he'd been noticing earlier. When Rhonda first gained consciousness, her fear was a lot more intense than theirs due to her claustrophobia. There was enormous electrical activity behind the chair she was tied to, which waned when Rhonda hyperventilated and then completely stopped when she fell unconscious again. John noticed that it also happened in others' chairs every time they felt and showed an intense emotion, especially fear. Zach was furious upon realizing that they were nothing but fuel for the alien ship. Then John goes on to explain how they discovered the remains of an unidentified flying object just outside of Roswell, New Mexico. They were able to recover most of the craft, including the flying object's occupant, who died in the crash. The flying object had no throttle or steering mechanism, and they surmised that the ET had a technopathic link to his vessel. The aliens are hardwired into the vessel, and they're not just controlling it. They're powering it using an energy they weren't able to identify where they were coming from, which now John knows was coming from the abducted humans. John also told the others about the most comprehensive research program that the US government had ever undertaken. When the UFO crashed, it caused widespread sporeal contamination that spread not only at the crash site, but throughout the surrounding area, including the local mining community. So they tested everyone in the town to see if there was even a single person who was possibly contaminated. Fortunately, not a single person exhibited any signs of illness. However, they found out that one of the miners' wives was pregnant, so they took a blood sample, which then revealed a hemoglobin abnormality that no one had ever seen before. The War Department waited for the baby to be born, knowing that the baby would be an extraordinary being due to it being exposed in utero to alien spores. When the baby girl was born, they switched her out with a baby whose mother had died in childbirth. The baby's parents never knew that the baby they raised wasn't theirs, and their real child was taken by the US government to be used as a lab rat. After several tests, they discovered that the girl was indeed a human-alien hybrid. A brain scan showed electrical activity that was so far off the charts that they had to create new systems of measurement, inhumane visual and spatial acuity. They called the girl a specialized extraterrestrial reconnaissance agent, or Sarah for short. At the age of 12, Sarah manifested an extraordinary ability called telepathy, an ability to interface with electrical-based systems using only her brain. After gaining this ability, the team attached Sarah to the alien vessel so she could open the door, a term John's team used for initializing the vessel. When the higher-ups noticed that John was becoming emotionally invested in getting too close to Sarah, they removed him from the team. But John had made a promise to Sarah that he'd never leave her alone. So he got another colleague to reverse engineer the alien technology and promised that nothing would ever happen to Sarah as long as he was alive to protect her. But Sarah was there in the alien ship with him, which means that the War Department knew something he didn't and sent Sarah up in the ship. After all, it had always been the purpose of their project. This project is called Project Ithaca, and they believe that Sarah is the only one who can stop the aliens. She can either destroy the ship or work her way to its programming and corrupt it. So they utilize her abilities and prepare her to become the weapon they want her to be. Large tentacles crawled into the room they were in and enveloped their heads, doing to them what they did to Rhonda, taunting them with a distorted version of their memories and using their weaknesses to instill fear or other intense emotions inside of them. However, they were all relatively calm and were able to endure. John was brought into a distorted version of the memory that still haunts him to that day, and Sarah brought him into Rhonda's safe place. Since Rhonda was gone, the aliens wouldn't think to look for them in Rhonda's safe place. Sarah told John that General Alistair Borland erased her memory before sending her into the alien ship to make sure that the aliens wouldn't read her mind and she wouldn't be perceived as a threat. Sarah boarded the ship and interfaced with the aliens' technology, and it was a success as Sarah felt her connection with the vessel getting stronger. Sarah revealed that the tentacles in the room they were in were biomechanoids, governed by highly advanced artificial superintelligence. The aliens are protecting a digitized life form that is suspended in an electrified plastic matrix, and its food source is them, hence the harvesting of their energy. The secondary purpose of harvesting their energy is to open a wormhole that would allow multiple of their spacecrafts to conquer the world. Sarah also revealed that the aliens are looking for her, but before she could tell John why, she was removed from the memory and the alien spoke to John. The alien revealed that John's transporter, which was supposed to keep his connection with Sarah, failed. John also learned that it was a calculated plan from the aliens for Sarah to be given birth to by a human for easy communication. Back in the biomechanoid, Alex was starting to panic again when Sarah reminded her of what would happen if she struggled. Alex was comforted as Sarah reassured her that she was not going to die inside that ship. John regained consciousness and told Sarah about the failed transponder. There was an error in their human technology and the transponder wasn't initialized. Sarah was disheartened by this, as the transponder was the symbol of John's promise that she goes, he goes. Sarah revealed that when she initialized the alien vessel recovered during the Roswell UFO incident, she saw visions of Rhonda's death, though she didn't see anything else about the others. The tentacles came back and wrapped themselves so tight around Perry, cutting his head off. Using Perry's head, the alien spoke to Sarah and John, trying to intimidate them. Sarah was back in the safe place where the alien told her that she had a great power within her. The alien told Sarah that she could save the others if she wanted to. However, Sarah didn't know how. Sarah slowly figured out the way to save the others and bring them back home. Sarah can interface with the ship both in the past and the present. When Sarah initialized the alien vessel when she was 12, she also opened the interdimensional portal in the process. So Sarah communicated with her past self and prevented her from opening that portal. Changing the past also meant changing the present and the future. So when Sarah prevented her past self from opening the portal, she reversed everything that had happened inside the alien craft, and Perry and Rhonda came back to life. However, doing this meant sacrificing herself, as Sarah had to remain inside the ship to open the door and save the thousands of people the aliens had abducted over the centuries. Upon learning of her sacrifice, John begged Sarah to let him come with her, reminding her of the promise they made to each other. Where Sarah goes, he goes. But Sarah knew that things don't work like that, and John needed to return to Earth to continue the fight against the aliens. The humans now have everything they need to stop the aliens from conquering their world. Sarah bid her last farewell to John, and the latter screamed for her as he was transported out of the ship. John and the other captives were brought back to Earth, and they all walked through the snow towards a nearby town. Back on the ship, Sarah was seen to be restrained and directly linked to the ship's computer. With their sources of energy gone, Sarah was used to open the door, or rather, a larger portal, to let a larger alien fleet enter the Earth's solar system. In the mid-credits scene, Sarah was attempting to contact John using a computer in the past Raven Rock mountain complex, but was unsuccessful.